We are full of concepts and we think we're living, but we're really conceptualizing.
Sea change when you go from being in your mind to being in your heart.
And the Course of Love was about discovering our true identity.
Yeah, welcome everyone to our show today. This is Heart to Heart, how our Course of Love is changing our lives. I'm your host today, Lynn Kidd, and I'm going to introduce our beautiful guests to you right now. We have joining us today from Penn Valley, California, Savannah Hanson. Welcome, Savannah, to our show. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and just get started. Would you like to share, be kind enough to share with us a little bit about maybe your personal journey before you came to A Course of Love?
Sure. So, I was living a life of quiet desperation like many of us, and then 1987 hit, and I decided to change my life. So I broke up with my boyfriend and went to Mexico and met somebody else, and we decided to go traveling around the world, which was a life dream. So he was Austrian, and we left the country and traveled around the world. I was supposed to be gone a year, came back after about 2.5 years, hit American soil, did not feel like the ideal self, cried and left again for another few years, lived in Asia and Europe. And then in 2000, I married this guy, and we adopted a child from Guatemala and lived down there. So that activated a lot. And then 2001 hit, so I dove into Course in Miracles, which I'd already had, but not really paid attention to.
Okay, yeah, thank you. You want to share a little bit about how you discovered A Course of Love, and was there anything significant happening around that time?
I kind of fell into it because I'd heard about it and I was curious, and I was at a Matt Kahn, he did a retreat locally, just a weekend retreat. And I was talking, somehow it came up in conversation, and this woman said that she had it and she didn't really like it. And was I interested in having it? So she ended up shipping it to me. And
Wow.
she lived somewhere else and she was just there for the retreat, and she shipped it to me, and it kind of sat around for a little while. It wasn't quite time. And then somehow a little bell went off and said, it's time for A Course of Love. And Glenn, who's the publisher of the course, lives locally and has a group, and I joined his group. And then once I joined the group, I was a goner.
Thanks for sharing that. And so kind of what we're here for is A Course of Love. So let's go ahead and get into that a little bit. So I would love if you could share with us, if you have a favorite, not necessarily favorite, but something that's really speaking to you from A Course of Love right now, like a passage or a line or anything you want to share about it.
It's about joy, because I say my life purpose is to be an emissary for the universal awakening of unconditional love and joy.
Beautiful.
So I was not like a joy bunny for sure. I found life on earth to be full of suffering, and to change that paradigm, Course of Love has been really helpful in helping me change that paradigm. So should I read it to you?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Where is it at?
It's on page 428, 4.30. Understand, this cannot be fearful. This cannot fail. This will not bring suffering, but will end suffering. Your part is to invite it and accept it when it comes. State your willingness, accept the coming of your release, and prepare to leave your prison behind. Invite this simply by inviting what brings you joy. Invite yourself first to the new world, but leave not your brothers and sisters behind. Invite them too, for those who are imprisoned are one with you and need but your release to find their own. So for me, Course in Miracles, I actually taught a course online called the Total Transformation Course about A Course in Miracles, but it was too heady for me. Many people love it, but I just couldn't get fully into my heart. And Course of Love, there's so many things about Course of Love. I mean, when I read that about no more suffering, I was like, whoa, I am totally on board. Mm-hmm. And then The idea that we don't have to learn anymore through duality, that was another showstopper for me. I mean, I was just like, what? I love it. And I actually want to talk about that for a second, because with this, virus, we didn't know what is it about? What should we do? And what I noticed is I was informed not to go to town for 6 weeks. So I bought groceries for 6 weeks, and I hardly saw anybody in that time. I did a deep dive inside.
Mm-hmm.
But to be informed was just like such a manna from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I love is no more Holy Spirit, like I'm it.
Oh.
I mean, that makes all the difference. If I have to, it's like this guy up, I was raised Catholic, this guy in the sky has got the answer, and me, not so much. And the idea of the ideal self.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It induces so much guilt. And I realize that's a big one for me, not to get caught up in that ideal self. And
that's so huge for me too, that whole giving the freedom to be who you are in this moment, and to give up that idealized version of self, that striving to be better, perfect, just like, some kind of China doll or something, it's like such freedom. That's where I find the liberation, is just to be who you are in this moment without worrying about some kind of image that you have to fit into. And I feel like that for me there's so much freedom in there, because if I'm feeling one way but I'm acting differently, there's a painful split. There's an internal split that goes on. And I actually heard a Buddhist teacher talking about that one time. He said it's actually a form of inner violence, because it's an internal violence, and there's a split between who you truly are and who you're trying to be, and it gets to the point where the split can become very, very painful, and then that's where all kinds of things happen, including removal of oneself from life, and so that really, really resonates. And I feel like for me, that's where joy comes in, is the freedom to be who you are. That's so like joy. Yeah, I know. It's so joyful.
It's ridiculous. I had a friend ship me this little thing from Canada, and it's 2 words, the little plaque, and it says, "Be you."
Yeah, it's about loving ourselves, and when we love ourselves and are compassionate with ourselves, and we're able, to extend that to others. So that's so huge, acceptance of the self as it is in this moment. And I feel like too, that's part of the sharing of who we are with each other. The line that, of course, is Mari's favorite: in order to be who you are, you have to share who you are. And that's part of the journey to wholeness, because if you fragment yourself and you're split off in parts, and there's one part that you don't want to look at because you feel like I'm not enough, you're not in the whole experience. It's a fragmentary experience. So that's a movement into wholeness, to be who we are. So I love that.
What I realized just recently is that my core belief that life on earth, which, they say it's the first line of The Road Less Traveled, life is suffering. And if I believe that, well, I'm not going to be a very happy camper. So for me, I've been excavating that belief. And one of the primary ways I'm doing it is in the wholeness of holy relationship, and allowing myself to be incredibly vulnerable. And I find the more vulnerable I am, the more intimacy I have, and the more feeling of belonging and connection with others.
I feel like that too, part of the wholeness too, is to be able to meet somebody in that space of like non-judgment. And then without putting an image between that person and myself. So if I meet you right now, the whole experience would be, it's like a blank slate. I don't have any preconceived images or ideas about you. I see who you are in this moment, and that's you're innocent, you're loved, you're beautiful. It's like it's a holy encounter. So I totally resonate with everything you're saying. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's a great message to get out there to everyone.
Well, and innocence to me, I didn't, you know, I thought I didn't know. A lot of it's like when I work with people, they say, oh, I don't feel any guilt. Yeah, right. It's so subconscious.
Exactly.
Super subconscious. And I don't know how many people they go, I don't feel any guilt. And then, you know, like, let's work through that. And then we discover this incredible guilt. So it's only a few years ago that I realized how vital it was to see myself as innocent. And I remember I was actually in a Zoom class, and I started crying so hard when I claimed my innocence that I had to get off the call. To meet another in innocence is, to me, one of the greatest gifts of in the world, because people respond. They're like, I've taught mindfulness in the prison. And to meet those men who have not very often been met with love, oh my God, they're like, it's like you just pouring water. You just see them just like, it's so rewarding to see them blossom with a little bit of love and holding them as innocent.
Yeah, no matter what, I love you. You know, it's like, I don't care what you did, you know. In God's eyes, you're innocent. You know, there's consequences for actions. We're all responsible for our actions, but you know, overall, you know, you're innocent.
What I discovered is that most of them had, you know, really horrible childhoods.
Yeah, I know.
Drugs. I mean, if any of us in that situation would have turned out the same. So of course, and when I see how, one of my most powerful experiences of my life was when one of the inmates asked me to speak about love in the group, and the palpable energy of wholeness and innocence was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
Oh, wow. Hey, you know, it's like, we don't know what anything is for, you know, so it's like, you know, you can still love them. And I think that's the greatest rehabilitation that they'll ever have. It's for somebody just to say, hey, you know, I love you, and, you know, it's okay. You made a mistake, you know, you're responsible for your actions, but, you know, in God's eyes, you know, you're innocent.
And in my eyes.
And in my eyes, you are innocent. Yes, absolutely.
And then what happens? I feel more innocent. I can hold more innocence in myself. And then, you know, this is the beautiful thing, is it's a revolving circle of innocence. I extend it to you, you extend it to me.
Right.
And we both flourish under those conditions.
Yeah, I think we're kind of coming up on our time, but this last minute, did you want to say anything, special words of wisdom for anybody brand new starting to A Course of Love?
You know, what's coming up for me in this now moment, I didn't expect this question, but this feeling of overwhelming love, because I don't know who will see this. And I actually prayed beforehand that I would say and be informed to say something that might affect somebody and give them a feeling of hope and a feeling of knowing their inherent worth and innocence. And my wish for you is, I embrace you. I'm going to look into the camera and say, whoever you are, I love you. I embrace you. You're innocent. And I wish you the greatest joy on earth and in the multiverse.
Oh, that was beautiful. Well, thank you so much. We're out of time, Savannah, but thank you so much for joining us today. It was really an honor to have you.
It was an honor to be here, and a joy.